Okay, so this is kind of like part 1.5 of the Lynx Raspberry Pi modding. I forgot to talk about the screen part last time, probably the more important piece of the project. So for this, I just have one of these generic car video backup camera monitors that I got from Amazon. I think these are like 15 to 18 bucks, but yeah, nothing too fancy. I've already taken this one apart, so I don't have that to show, but basically it's in a nice little chrome bezel box deal, and you just take 2 screws off the back, pop the whole thing out, and you get this guy. So this is a 3.5-inch composite TFT, and it's designed to run on 12 volts, which we can modify that to run 5 volts no problem, but they've got a little controller board usually on the back. And I've already desoldered a bunch of stuff. Right here is the 4 pins that have all the audio and, or not audio, but the video and positive and negative and everything come into here. And then this right here is your, let's go way towards the camera there. This is your voltage regulator module. And I did some probing and found that that pin right there on the chip is the I believe the output. So I just jumpered that to this little section here. That way it's outputting 5 volts, actually 5 volts straight into the system itself. So that way, basically, instead of having to use a voltage regulator to knock down 12 volts to 5 volts, we just are bypassing that completely and just getting 5 volts. What I'm going to do right now is just clean up this solder, because it's that just terrible lead-free stuff that they use over in China and probably everywhere in the world nowadays, which is unfortunate because probably better for the environment, but not so good for making nice clean connections that aren't dry and terrible. And so we'll use some good old 6337. But I'm left-handed, so this will be hard for you to see. But I'm just going to take some solder wick here and my trusty Hakko iron and just kind of get this all sucked up. And there is a lot of it. And you can actually see, wow, there's a lot of junk on there. Alright, so we'll take some of this stuff off. Clip the wick here, because that is getting filled up already. Wow. Just a glob of this terrible, terrible solder. Being very careful not to damage that ribbon cable. Looks like there's as I say, there's little bits of wires on here. Okay. So we got that all nice. And I'm just going to go ahead and clean up this a little bit. Get my little handy alcohol pump here. There we go. My toothbrush, and take a little scrub. Get that nice and clean. There we go. I'm going to use a microfiber towel, which is probably a no-no because they're probably not anti-static, but I'm not too worried about that with these pads. Okay, so make sure we don't get any alcohol on the front of the screen. We'll have to give the screen a good cleaning when we get done. But now we've got these 4 pads here. Ooh, see, there we go. I'm backwards and mirroring this, so I'm trying to figure out where this is. Okay, yeah, so there you go. Got these 4 pads right here, and they're nice and clean. Alright, so now I'm just going to use my little flux pin here, which is just a MG Chemicals rosin flux pin, and just lay down a little bit of flux. Probably lay it down a little bit more. Take my Kester solder here and drop some fresh solder on these pads, and that's nice and shiny. Just flows on there so very well compared to that factory junk. I don't like working with a lot of factory connections because they're so dry, and then if you solder something to it, it just snaps off in a second. So, all right, so there's the beginning of our screen mod. So we've got some nice solder laid down on there. We've got our voltage regulator bypassed, and then we can go ahead and do the next step, which will actually just be to put some wires in here. And let me get some wires. Some wires which are around here somewhere. Wires, wires, and more wires. So one thing you just don't ever have handy when you need it. Well, if I was more organized, I would have everything at hand. But I'm not being organized today. So I'm just going to tap into here, find an old, yeah, this thing's got a nasty wire on it, so this little like pin header is all screwed up from a previous project, so we'll just clip that thing off. Clippy clippy. Now we have a bunch of wires. Cool. So what do I want? You know what? I'm going to go with, I think I'm going to use this gray, purple, blue, and green side. I would go with the other colors, but hey, who cares? There's no standards here. I mean, the originals were probably red, black, white, and yellow. These screens have two AV inputs, so you have an AV input that you can use either way, but I'm only going to wire up one of the AV inputs since I don't need two. I don't know why you need two on these. It's kind of handy, I guess. Most people just ground out one, which that's probably the right way to do it. So I'm just kind of stripping the wires off here, throwing them everywhere. So what I'm going to do with this is once I get these tinned, I need to get a solder pot. That would be nice. Then I can tin these things easier, but I'm just going to tin these guys. Which what I was doing was dropping some flux on the wires there. I need to make sure, I don't know if this is long enough, so I'm going to look at my old Pi project here, which is this guy. Yeah, fairly long, not super long, so this will work. Yeah, I'm just going to go with this length, and this is probably about 6 inches. That should be good. And then what I had last time, I'm trying to remember here, is my screen wiring. There is a I need to figure out again what the actual voltages coming on these things are, and I believe that this is positive on the left, this is negative, and this is AV1 and AV2. So let's go ahead and do green as positive, and blue as ground. Like I said, the colors don't make sense, but it's arbitrary, right? So let's go ahead and solder that in. Let's move this out of the way. I need a little bit more of an elbow to do this, so I'm going to go ahead and solder this guy on there. And this is a little tricky because the ribbon is right there. So I guess if I was, smart, maybe I'll just detach the ribbon ever so carefully. There we go. Look at that. Nicely detached. Now we can do this and not ruin the heck out of everything. So we got some nice clean solder down. That just flows right on there. Beautiful. I'm going to do the same with this guy. Yeah, that's got to be the ground pad because it has a lot, like a way wider pad, and you can see that it actually is touching, well, I mean, you can't see it, but I can see it. It's touching this ground plane. So the next one is AV1 and 2. I'm going to skip this AV2 here and then go AV1, which is the end. I mean, I could solder this up, but I'm not going to. I don't want to. Actually, what I'm going to do is what I was saying earlier. Let's just ground that baby. So let's just take this wire and just cut the end of it off. Maybe. There we go. Put a little flux on that guy. Make a mess on my soldering mat. Which, if you're wondering about that, this is an eBay purchase. I think the guy's name is like Canvio or something, but he sells these high temperature anti-static soldering mats. I think they're like 30 bucks, so they're really reasonable, but it's such a nice workspace, and I just wipe it down with like alcohol or simple green or something like that. It's just nice to have something so I'm not destroying my desk. Let's see, I'm just going to drop that on there. I'm going to loop that back to the ground. And try and hold that in place. I don't have hands, so I'll use tweezers. Well, I have hands, but I don't have enough hands. Hold that in place. There, bingo, done. Okay. And again, I got flux everywhere, so I'm just going to go ahead and get some defluxer. Defluxer, which is like the 90% alcohol. Nothing fancy. Give it light strokes there. Okay. And we'll clean that up. Kind of dry that up a little bit. Okay. So now I have a connected LCD, which you should be able to see here. Let me zip that right in there. No, it's not going to focus that close. This is a webcam, so it's not fancy. But basically, we've got our 4 connections. Okay, so we'll put the LCD little header back on. And you want to be careful with these ribbons because you can actually cut these really easy. I've ripped one on accident, and that sucks because that pretty much fries it. So yeah, be careful with these things. And they're such fine pitch, I mean, and they need to go in really straight. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to end this video, and then I am going to do the next stage, which is connecting to the Pi, and then giving it a power-up test and see how that goes.